As your first reporter, I'm going to discuss on how literature review is an important part of our research paper. So I hope my report today will help you understand more what is literature review is. First, let's do the recapitulatory. Mondorius discussed about what is research. So what is research, by the way? A research is a form of disciplined inquiry that involves studying something in a planned manner and reporting it so the other inquirers can potentially replicate the process if they choose. So when we talk about research or research paper, it has many features according to its corresponding part of the research. The feature of a research paper are the following. First is the abstract. Second is the introduction, research question or hypothesis, aims. Third is the literature review, which I'm going to discuss further. Next is the presentation of findings, analysis and interpretation, limitation, recommendation, conclusion, and then the references. What is a literature review? Literature review is a writing process of summarizing, synthesizing, and or critiquing the literature found as a result of a literature search. It may be used as a background or context for a primary research project. Then, there are different types of literature reviews. A standalone literature review can be a single work on its own right. Example is a class assignment or essay, a review article. Then the literature can also form a part of the larger bodies of work. Example for this one is the thesis, dissertation, final year project, and then the academic journal article introduction. When we talk literature review, we need sources to which we can find some ideas and knowledge to be used in our research. So the literature consists of books, journals, reports, research dissertation and thesis, newspapers, microforms, audio and videotapes. With these books, it includes with the encyclopedias, yearbooks, textbooks, and reference books. With these books, they are usually useful for providing all overall summaries of the state of the knowledge in an area which you can find about your research. And also it has the starting point on finding more about your research, and usually it has with the books usually it has been a less up to date informations. The next is the journals, published monthly, quarterly, half yearly, or annually. With this, it is the common source because it has the concise and up-to-date information than books. Then we can guarantee the quality of the work that they publish. Reports. Reports of the commission appointed by government, similar reports. With these reports, it is with the government and international agencies. Research and dissertation and thesis. It can also be available sources of our research. Newspapers, also we can find more details or ideas when it comes to newspapers. Then the microforms, audio, and video tapes. Next is what is the purpose of a literature review on our research. First, we we can find out what information already exists in your field of research, identify gaps in literature, find other people working in your field, identify major seminal works, identify main methodologies and research techniques, identify main ideas, conclusion, and theories, and establish similarities and differences. Provide a context of your own research, show relationship between previous studies or the theories. So that is the purpose why is a literature review is very important in our research. How to start a literature review? As you can see in the slides, you can see a triangle which has three parts, which are the broad issues and background, themes of your research, direct relevance. So what is this broad issues and background? This context or background for the argument explored in the rest of the research paper, in which it conveys to the reader or to your reader what knowledge and ideas has been established on your topic. Then the next is the themes of your research. For this, it can discuss with your specific topic which focus on your paper, and also an overview of the literature that relates to the themes of your research. The direct relevance. It is where it spent the most time discussing the sources which are most directly relevant to your research. Reader came before and how you will contribute the field by moving research forward. There are four stages in research for a beginning of the literature review. First is the problem formulation. For this problem formulation, the, the topics are being examined and the component issue. Then the next is the literature review, finding materials or to find materials which is relevant to the subject being explored or relevant to the topic. The next is data evaluation, determining which literature makes a significant contribution to the understanding of the subject and letting go of information clutter. Not everything is relevant. So for this data evaluation, it was to identify which literature makes a significant contribution to the understanding of the topic. Di kay magpataka-raka o kuha o topic which are not relevant to your topic sa research. Then last is the analysis and interpretation, discussing the findings and the conclusion of pertinent literature. You will have to explain to whoever is marking your work why you felt that piece of literature was worth adding. The next is methods for searching the literature. There are 6 methods. First is the task involved in the literature review. There are 2 major tasks involved in a literature review, which are to identifying and selecting literature, writing about the literature. Then the next is skills required for conducting literature search. First is information seeking skills. This is the ability to use manual and electronic methods to identify useful resources like books, internet, and many more. Then, ability to conduct extensive bibliographic searches. Then the next is the critical appraisal skills. This is where ability to describe, critic, and relate each source to the topic. And also its ability to identify areas of controversy in the literature. Last is the organization skills. This ability to organize the literature collected around your topic, and also its ability to present the review logically. Next, or the third part of the methods, which is the searching techniques. Also, there are two, which is the scan and skim. For the scan literature of various types of contents, including theoretical foundation and definitions, discussion and debate, and also the current issues. For this scheme, it's very potential work to select materials for inclusion. Whether we decide whether to include or exclude a work from a review. Next is the sorting the literature. For each of these four article, identify for possible inclusion in the literature review. So you need to first read the abstract. Read the abstract is to decide whether to read the entire article. Then the second is read the introduction because it explains why the study is very important, and also it can provide a review and evaluation of relevant literature to your reader. Then the next is the read methods section critically, which is focused on participants and methodology. Then lastly is the evaluate results. For this, there are is the conclusions logical, or is there evidence of bias? So the next method is note taking, where we can take notes kung sa atong nabasa throughout each paper that you will include in your research review. For the extract key points by compare and constructing across studies, there are four. The purpose of studies, which is the research aims or hypothesis. The research design and methodology, data analysis, and summary of findings. So, a part of taking notes is to begin the process of shaping and arranging ideas. Then, lastly, is the question to keep in mind. There are many questions. There are five questions in my slides, which are what are the key sources of information on this topic? What are the major issues and debates on your topics? What are the main questions and problems that has been addressed so far? Then, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the various arguments on your topic? Then, who are the significant research personality in this area? Sources of literature review can be divided into three categories as illustrated in my slideshow in your research. So, as you can see, there are the sources of literature, characteristics, then the example. So, there are three sources of literature, which are the primary sources for the literature, secondary sources for literature, and tertiary sources for the literature. For the characteristic of the primary sources, which is the high level of details, little time needed to publish. For example, sa primary, which are the reports, thesis, emails, conference proceeding, company reports, and published manuscript sources, some government publication. Then Second is the secondary sources for the literature, which his characteristics is the medium level of details, medium time needed to publish. Examples for this is the journals, books, newspapers, some government publication, articles by professional associations. Next is the tertiary sources for the literature. His characteristic is the low level of details, consider amount of time needed to publish. Then the examples for indexes, databases, catalogs, encyclopedias, dictionaries, bibliographies, citation indexes, statistical data from government website. So for these sources, ang primary sources yung ang pinaka high level of details, then gamay ra siya og time needed to publish, while the secondary medium level as ang iyang details, then medium time po ang iyang needed to publish, while the tertiary low level iyang details, then mag consider pa jud kag amount para ma-publish ang imong research. Next is organizing the literature review. First is the chronological. The chronological framework organizes the literature in the order in which they are published. For example, if you were writing about specific teaching method, you would begin with the materials that first introduce the methods. There are two parts which by publication, which this framework is useful if you notice a series of articles and that are written in response to one another that are all within one publication. Then also by thread. This framework looks at the specific threads and organizes them chronologically. For example, if you are looking at the history of assistive technology in helping students with disabilities, you may organize the reviews by what disability was being threatened and then present the history of using assistive technology to treat the particular disability in chronological order. Then the next is thematic. This framework is similar to organizing by thread, except that you are not organizing the reviews in order that they were published. For example, if the review topic was arts-based research, your review may focus on the different ways artistic inquiry was used to determine the creative process, focusing then on the concepts rather than the development. The next part of the organizing the literature review is the methodological. This method or practice applied in a case study can be the basis for organizing a literature review. This framework focuses on how the authors or the persons administering a study applied similar methods as another study. As a result, the types of literature in the literature review that applies the methodological framework tends to review similar materials. For example, if you reviewed methods used to treat post-traumatic stress syndrome, the review would organize the studies by the methods used to treat the patients and not the order that the study were published. So for this, it focuses on the methods used by the researcher or the writers. For this structure of literature review, it is very important that the concepts are presented in an order to make sense of the context of your research project. So the structure of the research report itself, the literature review consists of introductions, which is the profile of the study, where it is to define or identify the general topic to provide the context for reviewing the literature. Then also it has the outline why the topic is important to identify overall trends in what has been published about your topic. Then identify conflicts in theory, methodology, evidence, and conclusion. And also it identifies gaps in searching the scholarship. And also explain the criteria to be analyzed or used in analyzing and comparing the literature. So, iga na ka-importante ang introduction. Naa tanan diha ngano is your topic, why is your topic is important, unsay overall trends sa imong topic nga need to be published, then the analyze and compare the literature. Then the next is the body. The body is the summative, comparative, and evaluation discussion of literature review. So, naa sa body ang tanan, the summarized, comparative, and the evaluation discussion about your topic sa imong research. Then the conclusions, lastly the conclusions, in which it summarizes the main agreements and disagreements in your literature. So, diri na po ma-discuss ang mga conclusions that had been drawn or the context sa imong existing literature. That would be all of my topic about literature review. You can ask questions about my topic in our Google Classroom where I posted this video about literature. So that would be all. Thank you very much.